Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Beth, and it has been a minute since I filmed. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I was sick, unfortunately, over Thanksgiving. Still not completely over it. I basically had a chest cold, bronchitis, that kind of thing, to the extent that I actually stayed home from my family Thanksgiving, and that was mostly because my mom had surgery this past Monday. Nothing serious or whatever. It was just an outpatient thing. But anyway, she didn't want to risk getting sick, so I stayed home. So, yeah. So here we are. It is, what is today? Wednesday, I believe. So, what I wanted to do, I have a lot of video ideas. A lot of them, unfortunately, involved fragrance or candles, and I think my sense of smell has pretty much stayed the same or been fine, but I just didn't feel like doing a fragrance focused video when I sounded a little bit sick gave the best impression, I guess. So anyway, what I thought I would do, so like I mentioned, it is I think December 4th today, so I'm getting a little bit of a late start on December videos, and I'm not doing Vlogmas per se. I definitely have some holiday themed videos in mind, but one thing I thought I would try to do, and I'm not committing myself to this fully, but I've purchased a fair bit of palettes, and so I wanted to kind of film with as many of them as I could. Kind of doing, I guess, 12 days of palettes, doing some every few days, I guess, through the course of December and maybe even into January. So that is kind of the overall theme, but I thought I would do basically swatches of all of these different palettes and some eye looks. If nothing else, just to make sure that I try them at least, get some use out of them. And if you have picked up any of these palettes, or if you were thinking about possibly asking for them for one of the holidays coming up, then you could maybe benefit from my experience, is kind of the thought. So I will have a list in the description box of the palettes I'm considering. If I do kind of 12-ish palettes, there are going to be some extras kind of left over. So I'll tell you what I'm thinking of, and if you have any requests for specific palettes for me to film this kind of video with, just let me know down below and I can try to prioritize those. So anyway, today's video I did 2 eye looks, so 2 different palettes, and those are the Charlotte Tilbury. This is last year's holiday palette, but it is still available. This is the Beautyverse palette. And this is the Sugar palette from Anastasia. So, as you've probably seen, these have kind of similar shades, I guess you would say. So, I do a kind of swatching portion and then an eye look portion. In part just to save my voice and save you from hearing my voice. I think the eye looks will be sped up and put to music. But I'll let you know what shades and that kind of thing that I'm using. So just by virtue of what you see before you, let me know which eye you think is which palette. So this is my right eye and this is my left eye. So just let me know down below which palette you think is which. So I think that's all I really wanted to say in terms of an introduction. I will have timestamps down below if you'd like to jump to a particular part. One other product, though, I thought I would try for you. This is the Anastasia Glow Seeker highlighter in the shade Ethereal that they came out with a little while ago now. But anyway, I haven't tried this yet, so I thought I would quickly pop that on. I will have all the other products that I am wearing in the description box. And I think I mentioned in the swatching portion, one thing that has also kind of delayed me making additional videos, I kind of really scraped up my finger there putting up Christmas decorations. So anyway, it's been an interesting week and a half or so, nothing too serious, but anyway, that's where we are. So applying that highlighter with the Anastasia A23 brush, and I just wanted to kind of see how this looks on the face, because like I said, I haven't played with it yet. So very, very subtle, actually. I don't know if I just need to kind of dig into the formula a bit more, because it's this kind of baked gelée texture. But anyway, I thought I would just apply that since it is also an Anastasia product. Nice component. It's kind of like a hockey puck, very kind of weighty and thick, has the magnetic closure. So anyway, that is that highlighter. So yeah, I think that is it for now. So let me jump into the swatches and demo, and then I'll be back to kind of give you my final thoughts. All right, so let's take a closer look at these palettes. So of course we have the Charlotte Tilbury, and this full name is the Beautyverse palette, like so. And then we also have the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sugar palette. So just a couple things to note, and I apologize again for my finger. I know that's kind of disturbing looking, but for the Beautyverse palette, we have a full 9 grams of product. And on the Anastasia, we have, so I believe for the Anastasia, it says net 0.98 grams / 0.03 ounces each, which looks like it's the same as the Charlotte Tilbury, which is kind of confusing because as you can see, there's a large or big size difference between the two palettes. This Charlotte Tilbury has a 24-month shelf life. The Anastasia has a 12-month. I'm not sure whether that is bright enough for you guys. It's looking a little dim. I don't know if that's better. But anyway, longer shelf life on the Charlotte Tilbury. So I had bought this last year, but it is still available, at least on the Charlotte Tilbury website. And this one is made in Italy. So this one is made in the US with US and imported materials. So that's kind of a general overview. As far as the packaging goes, obviously a lot of money went into this Charlotte Tilbury design. Very, very striking palette. And you do have a larger mirror. Those are the shades there with a little overlay that says what they are. I do appreciate it when brands say what the formula is and what the shade name is. So nice big mirror there. This one is a clasp closure. Also has my fingerprints, the names and shade descriptions on the back there. This one is obviously much smaller, so it would be perhaps more ideal for travel. I do like that this one is magnetic. Also has a decent mirror that stands upright, and these are just numbered. They're not named, and just a standard kind of plastic overleaf there. This formula does appear to be more fragile. So the first one that I ordered from Ulta arrived damaged. This blue shade, I believe, I might have a picture of it, was kind of out of the pan. So I did get a replacement. So if it's just a little bit kind of elevated, if you will, I can kind of deal with it, just push it in. But if it's a little bit more kind of scattered and that kind of thing, I will usually reach out to customer service for a replacement. Okay, so that is kind of the general overview there. And I want to start by swatching kind of similar shades. So obviously we have, I'll use a spatula here so you don't have to look at my finger. An icy blue that might be similar. This one has an additional blue. And then a little bit more of a purple shade, a little bit more of a pink shade. And then that matte, I think, is kind of similar, but otherwise it's a little bit more unique, I guess. Okay, so let's start with, I guess I'll start with the mattes. So we have 3, I think, true mattes in this palette, the Anastasia one. And I don't think I mentioned the prices of these yet. This palette is $29. This one is $75 full price. There were various deals floating around where you could get this one in combination with the Spice palette, which I also have. You could get some kind of deal on these from the TikTok shop, I believe. Like you get both these for like 33 or something like that. But anyway, that is the Spice palette, a little bit more of a kind of neutral warm color story. And similarly, there were some like 2 for the price of 1 kind of deals with this Charlotte Tilbury palette. So this one, I'll just run through the shades really quickly. So for this one, this is a matte nude pink. This is, it says a matte taupe beige with sparkling reflex. I'm not sure that there's much sparkle in there. This one is a matte grayish brown with sparkling reflex. This one is a sparkling silver with duochrome reflex. This one is a sparkling pink with duochrome reflex. And this one is a sparkling blue with duochrome reflex. This one is a metallic icy purple with sparkling reflex. This one is a matte deep purple with pink reflex, a little bit more brownish burgundy to me, but anyway. And then this one is a matte deep charcoal brown. So those are the shades in this palette. I'll quickly run through this one as well. This one is Virtual Taupe. It's a feature matte. Supernova Suede is a feature matte. Space Chocolate is a feature matte. Cosmic Pink is a feature matte. And then we have 4 Crystal Glow shades. So Cyber Silver, Planet Pink, Digital Lilac, and Golden Galaxy. And then this is the Beautyverse Party Topper here. And in general, ABH says that this is an essential mini eyeshadow collection featuring 9 full pigment shades from cool toned neutrals to icy pastels in matte and metallic finishes. Yeah, I'll spare you all the verbiage with the Charlotte Tilbury palette, but just to be aware that it's kind of typical Charlotte Tilbury. I did want to point out, it was interesting that although this palette did release last year, I don't know that this ABH palette was a direct kind of, if it took inspiration directly from this palette or if it was just coincidental. This one, she had said, it's a palette of trends from Latte Eyes and Strawberry Girl to Cyber Girl and Pink Core, plus the ones I'm predicting as the next big things, Disco, Mermaid Eyes, and my new Digital Lilac shade. Create them all with this multi-dimensional palette. So yeah, so originally my concept for this palette, or just the holiday palettes in general, I was thinking of just discussing how there's a lot of like very icy palettes, which maybe is more typical for this time of year anyway. But especially this year, like we had the ColourPop Frosty palette, we had the Huda palette. What else came out? The Dior Backstage palette was very kind of icy. Do I want to do these by... I'll do them by finish, I think. So these are all the kind of true mattes, if you will. So I'll do Anastasia on this side. And I did dip into this palette for a look once, so I have worn it. But yeah, that is the ABH matte shades. And then I'll do the 2 kind of sequin shades. And these 2 are both much kind of rougher than the other 2 in my opinion. So it does feel better swatching, and you can kind of see that sparkle. I'm hoping the footage looks good. The viewer or screen looks a little dim, but anyway. So those are the 2 kind of sequin shades, and then the other 4. So it looks like we have 3 sparkling shades and then 1 metallic shade. So I'll do these 3. And this has that more kind of thicker texture to it. So those are the 3 sparkling shades. And you can see that one has a little bit of kind of flaky crumbliness to it. So those are those. That silvery shade reminds me a bit of the Fenty Diamond Balm. So I think this might be a smaller size of it. Yeah, I'd say there is a little bit more substance to the Anastasia, which you would maybe want in an eyeshadow versus a highlighter. But there is the ABH versus the Fenty. Also my fingers. I'm sure you could shear it out if you wanted to, but. And then the final shade here is the purple, or lilac. So, oops, getting frame. So this one, it's a little more sheer. I don't know that, I guess there's a little bit more reflect, or a little less reflect rather, in that purple shade compared to the others, but I don't know that there's more pigment or substance to it, so that's interesting. Okay, so now that we have the ABH shades, I'm gonna start off by swatching, I guess, the matte shades in the Charlotte Tilbury. So very, very smooth. You can see there's a little bit of a sheen there. These, I think, are a little bit more like the Lisa Eldridge formula, or I'm trying to figure out how I want to do these. Okay, so I'm going to skip that middle finger for now. Yeah, they're a little bit more of that kind of almost cream to powder or kind of suede formula. So kind of like the Lisa Eldridge mattes or some of the Natasha Denona. You can see on the whole that those shades are skewing a little bit warmer compared to the ABH. So for these other three, I'm gonna swatch the two that look the most similar visually. So, and that is again more like thick kind of formula, so that icy blue and the purple. I think the purple has a little bit more of a duochrome in the Charlotte Tilbury. Okay, so this one would match up here. So you can see that's much more of kind of a foiled metallic versus a little bit more of that icy shade. And then this one would be the purple. And again, similar, but there is more of a kind of duochrome reflect in the Charlotte Tilbury. And this other purple, it almost looks in the pan like this kind of sequin shade. Not identical, but let's go ahead and swatch that one. It's almost a combination of those two, so I'll just put it in here for now. Yeah, it's, I think, maybe more similar to that. But you can see this one is a little bit more sheer, that one is a little bit more opaque. So sometimes you just don't know until you swatch. And then the final two metallic shades are not ones that I think are easily dupable in the ABH. So I'll just go ahead and put them next to these other two. So this is the Party Topper shade, and this one is the Golden Galaxy. So a topper, you usually expect less kind of pigment. So it's not far off from that kind of icy shade actually. It's just a little bit more, yeah, and that one is a much more kind of traditional warm metallic. Yeah, this one has more of an icy effect to it. That one is a little bit more champagne. I guess I'll go ahead and try and build these up. The Charlotte Tilbury one does feel a bit thinner for what it's worth. So this one is the Charlotte Tilbury, and that one is the ABH. I think you do get more of a reflect, like a solid kind of reflect with the ABH versus this one is a little bit more scattered. So, yeah, really interesting. I don't think these are actually that similar, even though they look quite similar in the pan. So I'm very, very curious to see how these look on the eyes. So that will be in the next segment.
Waiting for day's first light as the sky's about to ignite. How can I ever stay asleep this morning? My morning. I only get a 24-hour canvas. This morning is almost gone. I spread the clothes on where the sky meets your own. If you stop, you can find the answer. Could I ever stay asleep this morning? My morning. I only get a 24-hour canvas. This morning is almost gone.
Okay, so as you saw in the demo, my right eye is the Anastasia Sugar Palette, which is this one right here, a little bit more dramatic. And then the other eye is the Charlotte Tilbury Beautyverse palette. So on the whole, like as you saw in the swatches in the demo, these mattes are going to be a lot more softer, more subtle. I have really grown to like this kind of matte formula over the last few years. I think when I first encountered it through other brands and palettes and that kind of thing, I wasn't totally sold on it, but it is a very kind of user-friendly formula, a little bit more difficult to build up, but you're less likely to kind of run into trouble with it. I think on the whole, I like the tones of the matte shadows in the Anastasia a little bit better. They lean a little bit more neutral to cool versus a little bit more warm in the Charlotte Tilbury. The overall impact of the Anastasia, I think, is going to be bigger. I asked my husband which side he liked better, and he said the Anastasia, so it is a little bit more dramatic in that way. I think both eyes are very pretty. So if you were considering purchasing one or both of these, and if you have one or the other, I don't think they are actually that repetitive or redundant of each other. I think the formulas are kind of different, so even though there's a few shades that look similar in the pan, I mean, both eyes kind of give you that like icy vibe. If you only wanted to purchase one, I guess I would consider how dramatic of an eye look you want routinely. And obviously price point comes into it as well. And you can, of course, combine like this palette with a different matte palette. So if you wanted to kind of get that icy vibe, but maybe some softer mattes, that kind of thing, I did purposely select the shades that looked similar to one another. So just left to my own devices, I might have created a different look with this palette. So that's something to note. I totally lost my train of thought. But anyway, yeah, if you were interested in maybe some icy shades, this is obviously less of a risk in terms of the amount of money that you're going to put down. I think what I was going to say is this palette does have a little bit more kick up and fallout than the Charlotte Tilbury. So again, that might be something to consider depending on your tolerance for both of those things. I didn't do any kind of cleanup or anything with the eyeshadows. So I do notice a bit, but it's not the most egregious maybe. So I think if I were to recommend one, I would go for the Sugar palette just because it is a much better price point. And we also do have another, I think they call it Savings for All event coming up at Sephora where everyone can get 20% off. So you would get an additional 20% off an already pretty affordable palette. And I think this is also at Ulta, I believe, and they're also having like different sales and things going on. Let's hold it up the right way around. So I think this would make a good buy either for yourself or a friend or a relative if you wanted to buy a little gift for them. If you were interested in the Charlotte Tilbury and what I've said about the formulation and that kind of thing still appeals to you more, I don't think it's a bad buy. Obviously a more expensive one, and the packaging I think accounts for a lot of that. So anyway, so I do lean slightly towards the Sugar palette, but I think both are good. It's just kind of a matter of what you're interested in and what you like in your makeup palettes. So hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, I hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.